Because in a way, you can sort of give up on yourself, but you're never going to give up on your dogs. And so every single obstacle that I encounter, I had to learn the mindset of, instead of thinking, will I get past this? I had to think, how will I get past this?
Hello and welcome to Art and Soul, the podcast of the Center on Religion and Culture at Fordham University in New York City. I'm David Gibson, director of the CRC and your host for Art and Soul. We're here broadcasting from the cultural capital of the world, which is the perfect perch to explore the many ways that creativity, culture, the arts connect with spirituality or with faith or religion, philosophy, or really is simply the quest for the truth of who we are and the truth about the world around us. It's a great adventure, and today we are lucky to have with us a genuine adventurer, Blair Braverman. Blair, welcome to Art and Soul.
Thank you so much.
You are the real deal. You are an author, adventurer, social media influencer. I think you're technically an influencer now. You have so many. Yes, I think you would qualify. I would not.
Not yet.
Not yet. We're hoping.
You're influencing me.
Exactly.
Right now.
And you're a musher, a dog sledder. You're the first one. Congratulations. You're the first musher we've ever had here. And your story, again, I think the real impetus for bringing you in was your wonderful memoir, Welcome to the Goddamn Ice Cube. A wonderfully blasphemous title for the Center on Religion and Culture, which you also said it was also called Summer Camp on the Moon, I think was what you said. On the good days, it was Summer Camp on the Moon.
The ice cube in question was a glacier that I lived on for 7 months when I was 19 and 20 years old.
I think that justifies the title more than anything.
It wasn't my name for it.
It wasn't your name for it. I understand. Don't worry. No, you're not. This is Jesuit University. We're good. The subtitle, Chasing Fear and Finding Home in the Great White North. Great themes. And the wonderful thing about it, I think, was I got to know you in that virtual sense on social media. You have a great Twitter game or X game, whatever we used to call it. But I really wanted to read the memoir. And I thought, oh, this is how she gets into dog sledding, but it's such a coming of age story. And it's really about finding yourself as a young person, as a young woman. You did so much at the age of 18, going off to places like Norway, to the folk school. And it seems that so many young people these days are really looking for themselves. And don't want to extrapolate or characterize everyone, but there are a lot of people who are feeling lost, I think, these days. How do you see that, and how do you see your experiences relating to that?
Do you think more than before?
I don't know, because as we were talking about, I did the same thing way back in the 1980s. There's that sense of the quest.
I think that's the job of young people, is to be searching for themselves. If they know with certainty, I mean, more power to you if you know with certainty. If you're a young person who knows exactly who you are and what you want to do. I have a friend who announced in kindergarten he was going to be a taxidermist and is a really good taxidermist and has been on that track since kindergarten. But I think most of us take a little bit more of a detour in figuring out what feels right to us. And I think that's appropriate. I think that's good. I think that's part of what's so exciting about being young is you're at so many crossroads at the same time.
And those detours wind up being the most valuable things that you can do in life, I think. But it's also, I also feel that people, and again, my experience, again, in my early 20s, not knowing what I was going to do, one career path kind of fizzled out. So I was free to go to buy a one-way ticket overseas. I don't feel that people feel they have that freedom these days. They can't afford to make mistakes. They have student debt. They have a lot of things that I didn't have to worry about.
Yeah.
And they can afford to make mistakes, which is the only way you really find success.
Yeah.
The other thing, just to follow up on that line, is really, I think what struck me about the book, and also finding out that you were Jewish. I'm reading this, I'm like, oh my God, Blair's Jewish. the Center on Religion and Culture. We have a hook. We can bring her in, yes. And we'll get to that in a minute, a little more in depth. But really, I think what struck me is the way you so intentionally put yourself as an outsider into places. Jewish person at the Arctic Circle in Norway, but also a woman in a man's world, a Californian in sub-zero temperatures, whatever you may. But you really so intentionally made yourself as an outsider. And in turn, it kind of opens our eyes to the importance of welcoming outsiders. We're at this point in our society, we're so intent on scapegoating anyone who's not like us, Jew or Palestinian, gay or trans person, what have you, refugee, migrants. And your story just seems to be about putting yourself in their shoes in some way.
In some way, I can see that. I mean, I think a big difference is that I was choosing to go places, and if someone's a refugee, it's a very different situation to be an outsider because you have to be. There's a different vulnerability there if you can't just go home, if things don't feel right. And I was always privileged enough to be able to go places, mainly Norway for our listeners. I moved to the high Arctic in Norway when I was 18 years old to become a dog sledder. And I'm also white, right? Like, so I would be up in northern Norway and people would talk about foreigners and I would say, I'm a foreigner. And they would say, no, you don't count. And they would never come outright and say, oh, it's because you look like you could be Norwegian. But that was a subtext. And I would always try to remind people, they'd say, oh, but you're like basically Norwegian. And I'd say, well, no. Well, actually, my mom is Norwegian, so there is that. But, the ways people were reluctant to see me as an outsider, even when I was, always interested me.
And yet you were identified as one of them. You were still in many perilous situations and you were still on your own and you really pushed yourself. Again, it was chasing fear to find out what was pushing you to do that.
I think that I'm a person who has a lot of fear. And if I think of myself as a fearful person. And so I could be anxious about what I do is I spiral in the what ifs, right? So I can sit at home and be anxious, or I could be dog sledding across the Arctic and be anxious. And I would rather be doing the second one because I'm going to have the same amount of what ifs running through my brain no matter what. And so in a way, it's also a way I can prove to myself that I'm not governed by that fear, that I get to do what I'm drawn to, and that I'm pretty darn competent. I mean, once you've crossed thousands of miles of wilderness with dog team, there came a point where I couldn't tell myself I wouldn't be able to handle things.
Because you kept leaning into it.
I kept handling them.
Yeah.
Because when you're mushing, when you're dog sledding across the Arctic, anything that happens, if you encounter wild animals, if there's a blizzard, if it's suddenly 50 below and everything plastic in your sled just shatters because of the cold, if a dog is in trouble and you need to help the dog, if there's water you need to cross, any of these things, no one's coming to help you and you have to find a way across. Because the alternative, let's say I've been mushing for 2 days and I have a day's worth of food left in my sled and I come to a river. I have to find a way across that river because the alternative is like to sit down and die. That's obviously not going to happen. I'm responsible for the dogs primarily. They're what really keep me going because in a way you can sort of give up on yourself, but you're never going to give up on your dogs. And so every single obstacle that I encounter, I had to learn the mindset of, instead of thinking, will I get past this? I had to think, how will I get past this? There is a solution. I just haven't figured it out yet. I need to sit down and think hard until I can get through it on my own and with my dogs because no one's going to come save us.
And it's remarkably admirable. You say you're a fearful person, and you don't seem like a fearful person, and yet it's a wonderful thing for people to know, because we all go around looking at the other person saying, "Oh, they've got it all together." But you leaned into this. You leaned into this experience, and I have to just say and to recommend all of your books. You've written a novel. You've just written a children's book. Your columns at Outside Magazine are just fabulous. Look up
Thank you.
everything that Blair's written. The Ice Cube memoir, I think, is fantastic, and these you're writing about these thrilling and scary adventures outside is really gripping. Someone called you the female Jack London, I think, in one of the write-ups.
That was high praise.
I know, very much so, but justified. Would you send one of your kids to do what you did?
Yeah, I would. I would absolutely.
I'm the father of a daughter. I'm not sure I would.
Why not?
I'm afraid for them. I feel
Yeah.
responsible. And you also speak in the memoir, in the Ice Cube book, so honestly and powerful about your parents, and just fantastic writing about that relationship and the stresses and strains, and you realizing at some point then feeling protective of you, but you can't.
Yeah. Well, and it's easy to look at your parents and think, here's what I would do differently. But now, as I mentioned to you, I have 1-year-old toddlers who are twins. And so they fall down and they hit their heads. And I'm always sure that they've, because they're learning to jump right now. They're learning to like bend their knees and try to jump. And they fall down a lot. And it scares me every time. But they just get right back up. And so I have to learn not to stop them from doing the things they want to do.
But again, when you're a teenager going on your own to Norway, to these places, the Arctic Circle, all male, all everything, you would let them do that if they really were driven to.
There's things I would advise them against. I think... For what it's worth, I found mushing culture in Norway to be a lot less misogynist than mushing culture in Alaska. And that's something where, like, if my daughter was interested in mushing, there's a lot of really wonderful people in Alaska, but I might say, try mushing in Norway instead. It's that sort of thing that you learn from experience that I would try to offer guidance, but also, who knows, it could be reversed by the time she's 18 or whatever age people do those things.
But
and
they have to go off and make their own mistakes. I understand all that intellectually, but it's still hard.
Yeah.
And I'll be there. Good
well,
for
my
you.
parents were brave. They were brave in letting me do those things.
Yeah,
I think it terrified them. There's a lot of things I didn't tell them about until afterward. But I think they also know me, and they know that I don't take risks in order to take risks.
Speaking of your parents, that's a great segue into your Judaism and New York. What I loved, I think, about the story you first told in there of your parents meeting is that your mother, Norwegian extraction, is that?
Yeah.
Marrying a Jewish guy your father from the Bronx, Lower East Side. But the problem wasn't why he was Jewish, he was from New York. How can you marry a New Yorker?
Yeah. Her family was worried about cultural differences there. She's very outdoorsy. She gave me my love of nature, and my dad loves art really deeply, and so they both instilled a love of writing in me. But I feel like his mother was a professional artist, and so he always instilled in me that sort of art and creativity was one of the most important things you could do.
And you were raised in a Reformed congregation, normal Jewish, kind of upper standard American?
Just standard American Reform, Hebrew school, bat mitzvah, summer camp. Just sort of your very standard.
But going to these places, having these adventures, and being in these places where you're so much the outsider, and the Judaism is part of that.
Yeah.
What did that do to your identity? Did that kind of make you reflect on it? Did it strengthen it? Did it dilute it? Did it, I love to tell the tale when you were in Norway, the Ask a Jew
Oh, yeah. I went to the local school, invited me out because none of them had ever met Jews before in the Norwegian Arctic. Like, they'd literally never met a Jew. People would come up and touch me and say, like, oh, I touched one. But I mean, that sounds very bad, but I could tell it was like curiosity. I never felt discriminated against, but I think people were really excited in part because they knew that their kids were growing up in a pretty distant corner of the world and in a pretty small community. And so they were really excited to have someone from a different culture who was there. And I speak Norwegian, so I could talk to their kids. And so they had me come out, like a second grade teacher had me come out to her class and give an Ask a Jew talk, and the kids asked all sorts of questions. That the one they really wanted to know a lot was how do you recognize a Jew when you see one, which that's a fraught question. I don't totally know how to answer that for a bunch of 7-year-olds. But then I did that, and then the 3rd grade invited me, and then the 5th grade, and I ended up spending like a 2-week period where every day I was visiting a different grade and sort of being the representative Jew, which is a lot of pressure.
But it's also, and again, we all grow up as something. And you grow up a Jewish or Catholic or whatever, kind of reflect on it. All of a sudden it's like you're the representative.
I know. I don't represent everybody. Are you kidding me?
And you're like, I hope I get this right.
I know. I mean, I was... I mean, the amount of thought that I would put in, I thought harder about answering their questions than just about anything I've thought about in my life because it felt like so much responsibility.
And then you went to Alaska, and now you're in northern Wisconsin. Is there any Jewish community around there?
There is. About 3 hours away from where I mostly have been in northern Wisconsin. So sometimes that meant, driving 3 hours for services.
Oh my.
Not all the time.
That's dedication. I mean, we're here in New York, and people won't walk 2 blocks to go to church or synagogue quite often. So that's. Is it a real community? Is it?
Yeah. So the synagogue I've been part of is Bet Shalom in Marquette, Michigan, and it's shout out. It's so wonderful.
No kidding. That's beautiful.
And it's there's actually like a consortium of Jews in northern Wisconsin and Michigan that sort of meet up and do weekend camps and stuff and bring all their kids together a couple times a year, and that's been a really great community.
That's wonderful. So your Jewish identity is still part of how you define yourself.
Yeah. I was making a sukkah with my kids last week.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that you can do definitely. That's part of the rural lifestyle. So I was thinking about your the other thing. The biggest Jewish question I did want to ask, though, because I was reading through a couple of interviews with you. Is it true your sled dogs are Jewish?
Most of them. We do have
Okay, I don't want to get to the Norwegian. How do you tell? You have a Catholic dog?
We do have a Catholic dog. I mean, he's retired now, but our dog Colbert is Catholic.
After Stephen?
Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah.
A great friend of Fordham University, Stephen Colbert.
All right.
Best lay Catholic out there. He's amazing. So again, not to get into the facial recognition thing, but how do you tell which dogs are Jewish?
It's vibes.
It's vibes.
It's vibes.
It's all vibes.
Yeah. And they're raised Jewish.
Do you have a bar mitzvah?
Not yet, but we should.
Love those.
Yeah.
We do that here. So.
Do you do that here? That's fantastic.
And the Jewish values, is that really something that, again, that seems to me, just reading from the outside, you as an outsider, your inclusiveness, what you push for on social media, that cesspool of social media. And there's Blair shining adorable dog pictures and a light for the good, on there. And it really is. And that just seems part of who you are. Where do you find, I guess, spirituality? In the sense that, and I've been thinking a lot about Jane Goodall, who was, when I'm much older than you, but when I was a kid, she was a hero.
I know Jane Goodall. Are you kidding?
Diane Fossey, Jane Goodall, and when she would speak about wonder and nature, not in any kind of quote unquote religious way, but in such a powerful way. Where do you find God, spirituality?
I mean, absolutely outdoors. I think that I went to a summer camp that would hold Torah services It was right near Yosemite. It wasn't in Yosemite, but there was this grove of redwoods, and we would hold Torah services under the redwoods. And like, I think even as a kid, that felt exactly right to me. That whatever God was, I felt closer to that when I was outdoors, or able to feel it more acutely. And you know, and another thing about being Jewish is there sort of isn't an expectation of belief in God. It's there if you're looking for that, but it's a culture as much or more than a religion. So I was never raised that I had to believe a certain thing, but it's more like, okay, if you're Jewish and you're seeking spirituality, here's sort of a structure that your ancestors have created that you can use.
What are the most intense spiritual experiences you've had? I'm going to assume it's out there someplace on the trail.
Oh, that's a great question.
Although you've just had a couple of kids, so it's that's also
that'll do it. That'll do
different
it.
level. I like what you said about Judaism, because there's different ways to experience at different points in your life on the spectrum.
I think I don't know if I can name an acute moment, but there's a feeling I get when I'm out with the dogs and they're running over the snow and it's silent. I can just hear their breath and their paws on the snow, and the sled is silent, and we're seeing things no one else in the world is seeing. Landscapes that no one's seeing, or maybe one or two people are seeing, you know, but it feels so like such an extraordinary gift to be there. Like, I'm so overwhelmed with gratitude and appreciation and recognition of a landscape, a place, a world, an opportunity I'm having that is almost too glorious to comprehend. And if that's not spirituality, I don't know what is.
It's beautiful. And I think as I get older, I think gratitude is the greatest spiritual attitude you can have. Just be grateful, especially in these days, which is so difficult. And not to go back to the difficult part, but we were talking earlier about, the reality. A lot of terrible things in this world are going on. Climate change is one of them. It's almost because of so many other things that are going on. Man's inhumanity to man, the fate of our globe is happening. What is that doing in your world, in your mushing world, and in your the northern climes that you've grown up in?
Mushing is incredibly affected by climate change. So a lot of races that have been on the same routes for however long, decades at least, are now being rerouted or being canceled year after year. A lot of mushers are doing more and more dryland mushing. So having dogs pull a cart, a scooter, a bicycle, an ATV, just anything with wheels that you don't need snow for. And the dogs are changing. People are breeding hound into their dogs so that they're better able to tolerate heat. Because the biggest risk to sled dogs, people always say, oh, aren't your dogs cold if we're out in extreme temperatures, -30, things like that. You almost never have to worry about sled dogs getting too cold. It takes the most extreme conditions to worry about sled dogs getting cold. It's not something that I've ever really had to worry about in 20 years of mushing, to give you context, even in temps 30, 40 below. But we worry all the time about sled dogs getting too hot. That's really dangerous for them. Their bodies aren't made for cooling down. They're made for staying warm. And so, there's a lot of time. The season gets shorter. There's a lot less time we can mush because you worry all the time about dogs overheating.
Why do you write? It's so funny. It's almost, my question in a way is almost, how do you identify yourself? You're a musher. That's such a passion. You're a mother now. You love the dogs, but you're also a writer. What drives you to write?
I love words. And I think I've always been drawn, since I was a little kid, I've always been drawn to capture what I'm experiencing, capture ideas as precisely as possible with words, capture feelings. Like, I would sit in a school classroom when I was a little kid, or when I was older in high school, and think, how would I capture this exact moment in as few words as possible? Like, how few details could I give that are telling details that would, could I write 2 sentences that would give people the exact feeling of sitting in this classroom that I'm having right now? And, or I'd think that while I was out for a walk or doing anything, just sort of the idea of capturing things so that they're not lost and communicating precisely so that you're not alone were, I think, the 2 driving forces for me. And I've thought before, am I a musher who writes or a writer who mushes? And I think the answer, I mean, like I just said, I've been dog sledding for 20 years, 19 years, technically. And I hope it's part of my life forever. But you could take me away from mushing and I would still be a writer, even if I didn't have a pen and paper, because it's how I think. It's the way my brain works. I am constantly thinking in words and trying to put words together and describing things and capturing things. So you could drop me anywhere on the planet and I would still be a writer, but mushing is something you need access to be able to do. So, if I lived in New York City, mushing is who I am writing is who I am and mushing is what I do.
I like that. And you write so well. I love the way you put it. It's also a way to feel less alone. And I think I can vibe with that in the sense that it is a way to share your experience and then have it shared back. I mean, is your life, there's so much, we're talking about young people, but social isolation is such a problem. And yet, you went to the most isolated places and you found community, however. I mean, the outdoors is not an isolating place for you.
No, it's not at all. But it's also not lonely. It's like you can be alone, but not lonely. Mm-hmm. I spent, especially during the pandemic, we spent like 2 years in a 1-room cabin with no plumbing and no heat. And everyone was, not everyone, but a lot of people's lives were really getting a lot smaller as a result of quarantine. But I felt sort of the least affected by it because I was just in this cabin in the woods, 1-room cabin, and I would be there anyway. At one point, there were 4 of us there for months, and it was a tight squeeze. Felt like a lifeboat.
But you were not. There were 4 of you, but you were not alone. You were not lonely.
No, and I've spent a lot of time alone out in the woods, and no, it doesn't make me lonely at all. I find it to be a very rich life. But that's also why I started posting on Twitter back in the day. R.I.P. People told me, I had to get on Twitter because I was in grad school for writing, and they were saying, well, if you want to be a writer, you have to be on Twitter. That's where media lives. And I felt very self-conscious. I didn't feel like I had things to add to the conversation, but I made an account because I had a book coming out. And I started sharing sled dog photos, but I felt really embarrassed about it at first. Like, I felt like I was going to seem, when I was like 23, 24, I was trying so hard to seem like a serious writer, and I felt like sharing dog photos was going to make me seem deeply unserious. But I did it anyway and sort of dipped my toe in and was shocked by how much the dog team took off. And I really came to love Twitter as a storytelling medium. Twitter threads as a medium, a way that you could sort of control the pacing of, each tweet and photos. And
where do you post now?
I don't really. I have an Instagram. I should. I don't have a voice there in the way I had a Twitter voice.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I try to catch up with it, and the algorithms and just the style of each of these platforms change.
I kind of have to decide if it's worth it to me to post enough to find a voice that feels right to me. I put a lot of time into Twitter, and it built an incredible community. We had over 100,000 people who are following the dog team, and they call themselves the Ugly Dogs. And they did so much good in the world, and they still do. This community still exists mainly on Blue Sky. But so, for instance, when I was mushing in the Iditarod, I came into a village, and a woman hugged me. And I didn't know what that, like I mushed in and all of a sudden this woman runs up and she's in a parka and I'm in a parka and she throws her arms around me. And like when you're wearing parkas, like it's a very squishy hug. And I was like, are you okay? What's going on? And she was like, thank you, thank you. And I didn't know what on earth was going on. And then I sort of said goodbye, left that village, mushed to the next village, and people came up and thanked me. And I was like, what's going on? I mean, I was so sleep deprived. People hallucinate out there. That hadn't happened to me, but I started to wonder when all these people were thanking me. And I found out that the fans of the team, the Ugly Dogs, had started fundraising for villages along the trail. And I think at this point, I mean, they've kept doing this every year. They call it the Iditarod, but they raised like $100,000
Remarkable.
On Donors Choose, where like teachers in the villages could say, oh, I need supplies to teach my kids about tech or growing plants or art supplies. And they were sort of like buying everything on these teachers' wish lists so that as a way to give back to the villages that were giving to the mushers by allowing us to mush through and supporting us in the race. And it was, I mean, the online community just completely self-organized and raised so much money and did so much good. And sort of seeing, I mean, that did so much for my understanding and belief in humanity and goodness. Seeing year after year this community that had formed around the dogs, just, I think the community's identity really crystallized around the idea of doing good. And so there were knitting campaigns, knitting hats for kids in ski programs where they were learning to ski. There were just all sorts of things, especially all focused in the villages we were mushing through.
That's wonderful. And that is the power of good that it can do if you leverage it that way. And you want to leverage it the other way, but we're here to focus on the good. And you've really been a wonderful friend and witness and to all of that can happen. Lighting a candle rather than cursing the darkness. That's what we're about.
I love that. We should all be trying to do that.
Exactly.
Right?
Thanks so much, Blair Braverman, for being on our program.
Thank you so much, David.
And that's it for this episode of Art and Soul. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to check out our website, fordham.edu/CRC, for our list of future events. And be sure to follow Blair Braverman at her website, buy her books, read her. It is, again, a source of hope. Thank you. Thanks, Blair. I'm David Gibson, Director of the Center on Religion and Culture at Fordham University in New York. You can find us on the web at fordham.edu/CRC, and you can subscribe to Art and Soul wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Our producer for today's episode is Olivia Paust, and our theme music is courtesy of the Endangered Quintet. Music by Tim Kaya, lyrics by Roy Nathanson. Thanks for joining us on Art and Soul. Shed a tear for